I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. This is the start of the third week of the Amazing Readathon. If you've missed week 1 or week 2, I will link them in the cards and in the description below. But basically, it's a competitive readathon. I'm on the blue team, and we are racing around the world, fulfilling prompts, and hoping to get the most amount of points for our team. It is based on the Amazing Race, and it has been so much fun. So the last time you saw me, I was working towards a prompt to get to Rome. The prompt was to read a book with romance. And I'm not much of a romance reader, so I reached out to the blue team to get some recommendations, and they recommended One Last Stop by McQuiston. This is a sapphic romance. So August has just moved to New York City, and when she's on the subway, she meets another woman who she's instantly attracted to, and we get to follow their journey. There's some sort of time travel shenanigans. I wasn't quite right, but I don't want to clarify because I don't want to give away plot points. But basically, one of the women might not be living in the current timeline. I'll just say that. Also, there's a backstory where August's mother, her brother has gone missing, and it's been kind of a quest their whole life to figure out what happened to August's uncle. And because of that, she has detective skills, and she uses these detective skills to figure out what's going on with the other woman. She also has really great roommates. I swear, they were probably the best part of the entire novel. I loved the side characters. And yeah, it's a romance. They get together. There's obstacles, but I found that there was way too many coincidences, and it was pulling me out of the story quite a lot. So ultimately, I'm going to give it 3 stars, which is fairly standard when I read romance. It has to really kind of blow me away to get more than 3. We are expecting to get another prompt today, but it hasn't dropped yet. I did try picking up the graphic novel Bloom, which also has a romance. But after about 50 pages, I was just not invested. I didn't care. It was angsty, whiny teenager, and yeah. I was like, no, this is just not happening. So I'm not planning on sightseeing, and I will just wait until the next drop happens. I am headed to the library because a few of my holds came in, and I'm hoping I can work them in to whatever the prompt is. But I will let you know. I did end up going to the library yesterday, and I picked up my holds, and they were having a little sale in the lobby, and mostly it was references and textbooks and things that I wasn't interested in. But I did find Invisible Child by Andrea Elliott for $4, and that was really exciting, so I had to pick it up. This won the Pulitzer Prize for nonfiction in the last couple of years, and I'm very excited to read it. So if it fits for a prompt, I'm going to try and get to it soon. When I got back, there still wasn't a prompt, and I was reminded in the Discord that the romance did not have to be a healthy romance. So I ended up picking up Magma by Thora Hjorleafsdottir. This is translated from Icelandic by Meg Matic. So this is a very messed up book. I remember I heard about it from Gemma over at Gemma Books. I'll link her in the description below. But yes, this is about a very messed up relationship. We follow 20-year-old Liliana, and the story is told in vignettes. And she has met this guy who is never named. We don't know what his name is. And she is really into him, but he treats her awful. It's red flag after red flag. He has children that he didn't tell her about and that he's not involved in their life whatsoever. He gets mad at her because she was promiscuous in the past, and he basically points at every guy and was like, did you sleep with him as well? And Yeah. He pushes his thoughts on like vegetarianism on her, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad, but it's just red flag after red flag. He is openly cheating on her, and she just kind of blames herself. Like, one night he invited her out to the bar, but she had already made plans to visit her family. She decides that she's going to cut her trip short visiting her family and come and surprise him. But when she gets to their apartment, uh, he's in bed with another woman. And instead of being mad at him and breaking up with him, she's like, oh, it's my fault. If I had gone out to the bar, he wouldn't have brought home another woman. And, I mean, the whole time, this character, I just wanted to shake her and be like, girl, grow a spine and dump this guy. He pushes her boundaries sexually, and to the point where I would call it sexual assault. He doesn't physically hit her, but he abuses her in pretty much every other way. And I'm giving this 4 stars because it was full of dread and horror, and I didn't like the ending, though. I found it realistic, but unsatisfying. So I'm giving this 4 stars. Magma is translated from the Icelandic, and it's hard to tell on this, but this is a very light blue, so I get bonus points for that. This was 208 pages, plus the 50-point bonus for blue and the 50-point bonus for translated, which got me an additional 308 points. I don't know if I did Last Stop, but Last Stop was 426 pages, and I took a plane, which doubled it, so I got 852 points for that one. Finally, last night we got a new prompt, and we are going to Santorini, Greece, and the prompt is to read a book with a coastal setting. And a lot of people were finding this really difficult, but I happen to have a sprinkle of sorcery on hand, and this is what I've picked up for this prompt. This is the second book in the Wittershin series. I don't actually know what the series is called, but this is the second book. And the family lives on small islands, and there are pirates and beaches and all sorts of coastal stuff, so this definitely counts. And if I have time for a sightseeing, I'm really hoping to get in The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is a pirate story with definitely have a coastal setting. And there's another Tiffany on the blue team who wanted to read this. So I told her that if we had time, I would buddy read this with her. So that's very exciting. I went to the library to pick up The Deep Sky because I've been eagerly anticipating this for months. It's not going to fit this prompt, but I'm hoping it'll fit the next one so that I can pick it up soon. I will let you know my thoughts on A Sprinkle of Sorcery when I'm finished with it and let you know what happens next. Hey, so it is day 4. I didn't film yesterday because I was feeling very low energy, but I was able to read. I was working on the prompt to read a book with a coastal setting, and I finished A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. This was a fun middle grade story. One of the Wittershin girls is kidnapped, and her sisters go on an adventure to rescue her. There were local legends, one-eyed witches, pirates, and a secret treasure map. It was a ton of fun. I loved it. So I gave it 4 stars, and this was 426 pages. I took a plane, which doubled that to 852 points, plus it is majority blue, so I got an extra 50 points, adding 902 points to the Greece leg. I then picked up a sightseeing book, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is also a fun pirate story. Amina Al-Sirafi is this notorious pirate. She has since retired, but is requested to find this missing granddaughter. So she gets the old gang back together and they go on one last trip. However, things are not all as they appear. There are sorcerers and curses and all sorts of things. I'm having a good time with this, but I only got 40% into this book when the next prompt was dropped. So I'm going to be setting this aside for a little bit. because this did not fit the next prompt. We got our next prompt, which was to go to Cairo, and we were to read a book with a past timeline. It doesn't have to be historical fiction, as long as there's at least a timeline in the past that counts, which is awesome because I've really, really been wanting to read this new sci-fi, The Deep Sky by Yume Kitasei. I did a cursory Google search, and this is told in multiple timelines, and we do have a timeline from when she's in training. So that counts, and I'm going to read this. This will also give me an author of color bonus as well. And if I can read quickly enough, I'm also going to be picking up The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. This is set in 2014, but it was written in 2020. So that counts. And this is the last book I need to read to finish off my TBR. So I'm going to try and get both of these done for this prompt. This will also give me the bonus for the blue cover, and author is a person of color. So going to try and read both of these for this prompt. I will let you know how that goes. Hi, today's day 5. So I started The Deep Sky yesterday, and I read about 175 pages. We're following Asuka. She is of Japanese descent and is on a spaceship called the Phoenix. She and another woman are out to look at the outside of the spaceship because sensors are picking up something and they need to visually figure out what it is. But before they can do that, something explodes and Asuka barely makes it back in. The explosion killed 3 people, including the captain, and so the next in line captain asks Asuka to kind of do some detective work. She says that she trusts her because she nearly died, and basically wants her to investigate who planted this bomb. They definitely think that it was intentional, and a terrorist organization on Earth is claiming credit, saying that they have a sleeper agent on board. There's also a lot of racial tension because the new captain is of Asian descent, and at the same time that the bomb went off, war escalated on Earth, and now China and the United States are fighting. And so there's racial tension between the Asians on board and the Americans. We also get a past timeline, which is good because that's what the prompt was for, of these women all growing up and going to the same, basically, training camp. They all joined as children and did 10 years of intensive studies in order to win a seat on this spaceship. So yeah, she's just kind of poking her head around and trying to figure out who could be responsible. But there's this added intrigue because she grew up with all of these people and she feels like she knows them really well. And even if they aren't like the best of friends, she still doesn't think any of them are capable of this. And so she's kind of having to like second guess all of her interactions with everybody. It is kind of slow for a thriller. I'm 175 pages in and not a whole lot has happened. But I also picked up my sightseeing book, The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. This is set in 2014, and we're following Aduni. She is a 14-year-old girl living in Nigeria. Her mother has died, and the father decides he basically needs to marry her off just to afford rent. There's an older man in his 50s or 60s who decides that he wants Aduni to be his third wife. And even though she doesn't want this, her father basically sells her, and she is forced to do this. The first wife of the man is incredibly awful. She's mean, and she is abusive, and she's really jealous. That first wife had only been able to give her husband one child, who was a girl child, who coincidentally is the same age as Aduni. And so he married a second wife, and she's only 20 in the story when we meet her. And she has given him 3 children and is pregnant with a 4th, but the 3 children are girls. and he has basically said that if this fourth child is not a boy, then he's going to stop financially helping her family, which was the whole point of her marrying him. And now Aduni is the third wife, and she's expected to get pregnant and hopefully bear a son. But she does not want to do this, and the second wife is incredibly nice to Aduni and gives her some herbs that can prevent pregnancy. Although, if the husband finds out, he will probably beat them. He is incredibly... He is not a good man. Aduni, all she wants is to become educated and to become a teacher, but she doesn't have this opportunity any longer. Yeah, I know from the blurb that something is going to happen that is going to tear this family apart, but I don't know what it is. I'm only about 75 pages into it. I'm really enjoying it. I will say that the writing is really unique, and it's a good thing I'm listening to an audiobook because she speaks in pidgin English. And I've heard that her English will get better as she becomes able to practice it with more people and talk to educated people and possibly even get educated herself. I'm not sure. But I am really enjoying both of these books and plan to continue. I am planning to film my TBR for September pretty soon, and I definitely wanted to make sure I started this because this is the only book on my TBR that I haven't yet finished, and I wanted to at least get started so that I could check it off on my bingo board. I have temporarily set aside The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi until I get a new prompt because it doesn't work with this current prompt. Hey, it's day 7. Actually, that's a lie. It's not day 7. It's like day 11, I think. I had a couple of really bad days. So I'm going to catch you up to where I would have been on day 7. So when I last checked in with you, I was reading The Deep Sky for Cairo. The prompt was to have a book that was set in the past, and this has 2 timelines. So I think I mentioned that a bomb goes off in the spaceship, and our main character, Asuka, is nearly killed, and because of that, the new captain trusts her to kind of investigate all the potential terrorists. And I also mentioned that they all grew up in like a boarding school type situation where they all know each other. And so yeah, that's what she was doing. She was looking around trying to figure out who was responsible. The other main intrigue for this book is that because of the bomb, it sets them off course, and due to not having enough fuel and the stuff that would keep them in suspended animation, they are now off track to go to Planet X. And they only have about 3 days to figure out how to get back on track before it's too late. So she's looking into who may have caused this while they're also trying to communicate back to Earth to try and figure out some solutions on how they can get back on track. And I think I mentioned that Earth is at war, and so, they're a little bit busy. They don't have time to help as much as the characters would like. They also have something that I don't think I mentioned called DAR, which it's like a virtual reality. They have these chips in their heads that helps them kind of like imagine different scenarios. Instead of this cramped white spaceship, they can... it can seem like they're walking through a forest, or that they're, at a campsite with friends, or, whatever. But that starts messing up, and their ship AI starts messing up, and it's a race to figure out who is responsible, why they did what they did, and how to fix it, essentially. I thought this was pretty thrilling. However, I found the ending was just a tad lackluster. When we find out who the culprit is, I will say I don't think the reader can guess who it is. I don't think we get enough clues to know. But overall, I still found it an enjoyable read. I think I hyped it up a lot in my head, so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. But that's fine. It was definitely enjoyable, and I would definitely recommend if it sounds good to you. The Deep Sky, I will put up however many points I did for Cairo. I think I also mentioned that I started reading The Girl with the Louding Voice, but we got a prompt drop before I was able to finish this. We are going to Beijing, China, and the prompt is to read a book that has script, which is either cursive or some flourishes on the book. So I decided to pick back up The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi. If you look between the R and the A, there's a little bit of cursive, and also with her name, wherever. Yeah. I asked the group to make sure it would count, and somebody that wasn't on my team said it counted. So I picked this back up for that prompt, and I finished it. This was a really fun pirate adventure. I will say this is setting up to be the first of a trilogy, and strangely, I don't think I want more from this world. This was an enjoyable read. I enjoyed the characters and the world building. She has mythological creatures in here that I thought were really fascinating. There's a sorcerer looking for magical artifacts. Tons of stuff I liked and enjoyed. But after nearly 500 pages, I was like, okay, I'm good with just this being the one. I will say it does end smoothly enough that it's not like a cliffhanger or anything, so you can just read the first one, but they do leave it up for her to go on more adventures later. I'm also giving this one 3.5 stars because I wanted to give it 4 because that's about the enjoyment level I had, but because I don't want to because I don't want to continue the trilogy, I feel like I can't give it a 4. I don't know. That's just how I feel. This was the biggest book I've read so far. It was 483 pages. I used a plane, so I got to double that. Plus, this is a primarily blue book, so I get 50 bonus points for that as well. And that's where we are at the end of day 7. So, I am reading a sightseeing book, and I will let you know about that in the next vlog. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know how you're doing in the readathon, or just how your August reading is going. Thank you for joining me. Bye.